Julio, as always, good to be with you, my friend. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Dana.
Of course. I know because you're all about, straight business, you're all news, but I gotta get your thoughts on this Intercept piece. Because, I've watched your work and I've actually seen other people's videos where you're in them simply recording other people. And you don't do anything to bring attention to yourself. You don't make yourself part of the story. You're there to capture the story, which is why your work is so incredibly good. And how did you feel about this piece being published and characterizing you in this respect? Where's the defense of the free press?
Well, it's funny because I was completely blindsided. I was getting ready to pack up and leave to head down. I'm in McAllen, Texas right now, and so I was just packing up and getting ready to go and focus on that. And all of a sudden, this was brought to my attention, and so I watched the whole thing. I watched all 24 minutes. It was a complete waste of my time. And I'm in it, so but it's just no. It's a smear piece. It's a shoddy work of journalism because they clearly did spend a lot of time and effort into this. Except their research was shoddy. To provide the very first example, they really like to say that we're really only covering riots. And look, obviously that was a big part of my work last year and even a little bit into this year. The issue is that there were when I was either in Kenosha, Minneapolis, or Chaz, when I noted that there are peaceful things happening right now, and so they didn't really acknowledge that. They also they barely acknowledged that I covered the Capitol riot because here's the thing: I don't care what type of group is rioting. I enjoy covering riots of all types, and I covered Black Lives Matter,
right?
Reporters rioted, right, and so. I don't care who it is, as long as I can go cover a riot, I'm happy in that regard. But it's just a complete joke, and I never really paid attention to Intercept even when Glenn Greenwald was a part of it, and so I'm told its standards have fallen drastically, and clearly I can say that they really did because they also accused Richie McGinnis, who's a friend of mine, of deleting footage in order to protect Kyle Rittenhouse. And which is just not true at all. So it's just so filled with holes, and it's a joke. It's a complete joke, and I'm just going to keep doing what I do best. It's not going to stop me.
No, and that's a great point. And then the point about the accusing somebody of deleting footage. I guess that person was unaware. I guess they were unaware that there's multiple cameras, and so there's so much video footage out there that that accusation doesn't even make sense when contrasted against all the other video footage that actually has your friend in the frame, has him in the frame recording the whole Rittenhouse thing. That's what I also thought was kooky about that smear, because none of the other footage supports that. His footage was consistent with everything else that was shown. Well, you do a great job, and I know we and everybody else appreciates it. What gets me is that they were angrier at you than the people who were actually carrying out the destruction. They had nothing to say about them, nothing bad.
Well, right, exactly, and they're accusing us of trying to sanitize or trying to overhype or whatever, and yet they did the exact same thing that they were accusing us of doing, which is being misleading, which they were. There were things that were just flat out false. It's even worse than being misleading. But then also just because they said they were saying that we were trying to put out a preferred narrative, which is not true, and to combat that they wanted to say, oh well, because there was some unrest at this racial justice movement, and I'm not really sure what exactly promotes racial justice when people are looting and burning minority-owned businesses in the inner city. And so, it's not my fault that most of the rioting that happened last year, and even a little bit of this, right, or Antifa, or just far left progressive, anarcho-communist type groups. Like I said, I don't care who riots, and so those were the groups that did riot last year, and so. I cover everything fairly and accurately. I don't deceptively edit my footage because I know that my name is my currency in this industry, and especially since I'm as I should be, right? Because then I'm proven to be untrustworthy. But I have built up my entire career on my word and on my ability to record and relay accurate information in real time in hectic situations. And so I'm not going to ruin that to put out a preferred narrative, because
Right.
to me, that's just not worth it.
I'm into that. And I would read the tweet that you put out yesterday where you responded to it. But the last part, I agree with it a whole 100%. I totally get fined for saying it, but I am right there with you in spirit, my friend. All right. So to where you are now, the border, I was told it was closed.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's nothing to report, right?
Well, surprise, surprise, it's not true, and that's exactly right. And whether it's at a riot or whether it's at the border, the reason why I like to go to these things in person is because I want to see it for myself, and because so I can, because anyone can just sit at home or sit in the office and just type from DC or New York City, and I'm not saying there isn't uses for that, but if there's opportunity to the border to see it firsthand, that I think that it definitely has more weight and value. And so yesterday I wrote this up for Town Hall for our VIP subscribers. But I was with the Brooks County Sheriff's Department, or Sheriff's Office, sorry, and that's about an hour north of the U.S.-Mexico border. And basically we were, I was with the deputy, and we were respond to vehicles trafficking illegal immigrants. And so it was interesting to see, because when you're right at the border and you see the people willingly turning themselves over, it's unaccompanied minors, it's people with family units with very young children. Whereas literally we had just started the ride along, and about 10 minutes in, we got a call for Border Patrol agent for backup, who was attempting to drive away. That's why, because he was just by himself, the agent. And so the driver had 6 illegal immigrants with them. And so they were above the age of 18, so they're not.
Right.
So they will be deported, right? And so that's why they were trying to avoid being detected. And so it was very interesting to see kind of the difference in the demographics, difference in the tactics, and then obviously a different terrain, because we are away from the river. This is more the interior of the United States, and so it was interesting to see how ranchers have been, dealing with this influx, destroying their fencing, which then, runs risk of their animals getting out, whether it's for, hunting, or whether it's for farming of their, hides or whatever.
Right.
And so it's just really sad to see, because, obviously it happens all the time, but the difference is that we're just seeing such a giant surge because the Biden administration is easier to get in, and in a lot of ways it is.
Yeah.
So the people can read about it on Town Hall.
Yeah, and they need to go and look, and I'll also follow you on Twitter, because you put a lot of video up there as well, at Julio_Rosas11. And make sure you go to townhall.com, find Julio's work. It's up there all the time. You do such great work. Stay safe, and thank you so much for bringing us such critical coverage, because honestly, there's so many of these stories that we would not be aware of, or at least the extent of what was happening, were you not one of the people that was out there bringing us that, doing the job of journalism that our free press is supposed to do. So we appreciate you. Our prayers are with you for safe travels, my friend, and keep crushing it. Keep doing great work. We're grateful you do.